Hello everybody, welcome back to Miyagi Draws. I promised a video showing how to trace. I believe that tracing is going to be your best way of learning if you're an absolute beginner or even if you're looking to improve. And I know everybody is going to probably tell you tracing, I don't want to trace. Trace is like bad. It's bad to do that. No, it isn't. Get that out of your head right now. I need you to remember something about art. Nothing is bad, it's the results that matter. Now, I'm not going to show you how to trace and then make it your own work. That's not the point of this. The point of this is to show you how tracing can improve your work. Think of it like you're developing muscle reflex and you're going to retain whatever you draw anyway. One of the best ways that your brain has to retain things is speaking something out loud. The second best way is writing it down. That cognitive process of putting something to paper or digital media, drawing it out, it locks it into your brain in ways that you probably just don't understand, but you don't need to understand it. It will lock it in for you. You're not going to draw exactly like whoever it is you're tracing, right? And that's not the goal. Like on my screen, I have up some faces by TB Choi, a character artist that I greatly admire. And my goal is not to create art that looks like this and then modify it a little bit and put it up and sell it as my own. That's not the goal. The goal is to do a study, but to do it intelligently. Basically, this is part of practicing art that is going to teach your brain and your hand how to do something. One word of advice I'm going to give you: have at least 3 artists that you cycle through and do this on. But what I'm going to do is literally try to trace what TB Choi has done in these phases. Probably going to delete the file afterwards. If you're doing this with a pad of paper and laying it over some artwork, great. Don't lay it over photographs. You need line art and you need really cool line art. So print it out from, I don't know, Pinterest, wherever the heck you want to grab your art, but find at least 3 artists that you like. Grab some of their black and white art, print it out, put tracing paper over it, and try to match their lines. Just try to keep doing their lines. If you like the way a particular line goes in the face, redo it like 4 or 5 times. That's how you're going to learn. The second part to tracing is you're going to, every so often, take your source and still look at it, but you're going to take a blank piece of paper, look at your source, and try to draw what you had been tracing. This is going to give you an idea of how well your brain has locked in what it's been taught by tracing. So tracing is not bad. It is an essential, critical tool to learning how to draw that I don't think is pushed enough. This is how you're going to learn. So I'm going to show you how to do it digitally. This because it's just easier for me to record digitally. I don't have an analog setup on my drawing table yet. I will, but for now I don't. You're going to want to start out with a blank paper. The document I used in Photoshop, it came with my Photoshop here, and I'll just do new, and you'll see all the different document sizes that show up. This one here, default Photoshop size, it's 7 by 5 at 300 ppi. That 300 is going to make a difference. If you try to do anything in 72, that's 96 or 72, it's not really going to look good. It's not going to print well for you. And you always want to do a piece of digital art higher resolution than what you think you need, because you can always scale it down, but you can never scale it up. You can try, Photoshop will try to invent pixels as you scale it up, but it's never going to look good. So start with a 300 dpi. I just do this because it's a neat aspect ratio and I can work with it. So I usually use that one. What I have for my layers down here, if you look in the bottom right, basically the Photoshop I have, it's set up for painting, and I just throw painting. I think I've put the paths and the channels here. Mostly the brush menu here is what I'm going to be using, and the layers. So for brush, These dry media brushes have this Kyle. I have no idea where this thing came from. If this belongs to somebody, my apologies, but I have no idea if it even probably just came with Photoshop. I really don't care too much. So I'm going to select the Happy HB because I kind of like the way that thing works, right? But you can use whatever. Like of the default brushes, I think they have a 17, number 17 sponge, which I really like. But anyway, so I'm going to use that brush. I have a background layer, which is all black, right? I have a layer on top of that, which is my imported art that I have locked, but I'll unlock it. It's 30% saturation. That's what 100% looks like. I took it down to 30, and then I lock the layer because I don't want to like mistakenly draw on that. Then I throw a layer above that, and that's the layer I'm going to draw on. Let's just get to drawing. And this is not a voiceover. I'm actually just doing this. So let's just go with this one right here. All right, so I do a couple of test splooges off to the side. Kind of figure out what I like. Don't really like that saturation. I want to bring it up just a little bit more. And don't worry about doing stuff like this off to the side. Who cares? It's your art. And actually, for the lines that TB Choi has done here, I actually don't like that pencil for it. So I'm going to go to his inking. He's got one called Thick and Thin, I think. You know, you just put more pressure, it comes down, it comes up. You know, you can do all manner of stuff with it. So let me use this. Yeah, see the stuff that I'm doing here off to the side? Do this before you do any art. It just calibrates your hand a little bit. I like to do like these gradient things just to see if my pressure sensitivity is okay. Do a couple, you know, wee little things like this. Doesn't matter. None of that matters. Okay. So go in and just start drawing. And if you really, you know what, I'm sort of, I started this out sort of advanced because I already know how to construct the head. So I just jumped in on the most interesting part, which was the eyebrows. And I don't think that's going to do you so well. I think what you need to start out with is the shape of the face. So practice getting the shape of the face in first. Identify the shape of the face. She's got a ghost line for the center, and then this is the top, the nose, and the mouth. I always put the ears in just to give me a little bit. Okay, so going off of this, the eye socket is just this big socket here, right? So I'm keeping that in mind when I'm drawing this. And I'm sort of throwing, you know, I'm not doing little sketchy lines like this. I'm doing lines like this and like this. Just kind of throwing my line back and forth. Practice this. It's gonna, if you've got a jittery hand, this type of thing is going to fix that jitteriness. And just enjoy this. And on some level, you know you're tracing it, but I want you to feel like you've actually done a good piece of art. Even though you've traced it, I want you to like be proud of what you've done, even if it's a tracing. Be proud of it. You don't need to show people, right? It's not necessary. But you need to be proud of what you've done. You need to love what you've done. That's going to help your self-confidence. Now, I am not doing exactly what TB Choi has done. I kind of have my own art style. So I kind of make this match my own art style. I love that. No, my cord hit it went over my keyboard and just flipped the fuck out on Illustrator or on Photoshop. I love that. As an artist, you're gonna have to learn to deal with these kinds of things, you know? It's just gonna happen. It's just gonna happen. You just gotta let it happen. Roll with it. Stop. Don't panic. Just consider what went wrong. Fix it. Laugh about it. So the way I'm doing hair and the way I think about hair is in blocks. And while you're doing tracing, I want you to think about how and what the artist was thinking about when they constructed these things. Hair is basically blocks, right? This is the top of the head right here. It's basically like that piece of hair right there is basically like a piece of folded paper, right? It's like a piece of folded paper where this is the bottom, this is the top, this is the bottom. That's all hair is, and then you just add little lines inside for details. That's all hair is. Think of it as pieces of paper just kind of overlapping. Once you get that basic idea down, then you can start drawing individual, hairs like that if you want. But as you're drawing, pay attention to what the artist is doing. Right? So the neck muscle here. It's not important to really know the names of muscles, but you do have to know the proportions, the correct proportions. What is this? The scapula kind of angles a little bit. She's got it drawn straight. There's a little bit of the angle. And right here that I'm doing, you kind of see the underside of the chin. On a female drawing, you don't really want to accentuate that, right? And the ears basically, you've got something like this that comes in, right, with your earlobe. And then you've got like a little Y shape in here. Like a little curved Y like this, right? And it sticks out. So that's kind of what you're drawing there, is the little Y shape. And then this is the inside part here. Got a little Y shape. The Y sticks out into that. This kind of goes over like that. That's basically an ear. You can practice it. It's kind of cool. So you see I'm adding little things. I really shouldn't do that, but hey, if you feel like it, do it. This is just practice, right? That's all this is practice. So move over to the next face, kind of an angry face. But we like this. And see, I'm still just throwing the lines. Now, if I want to, I can continue the head just to give me an idea. Now, the hair, when your hair parts, it's always good to take the part and throw it in a line like that, just so you get an idea. She kind of stylized it by putting the line up here. But get used to thinking of the hair part. You've got your head right here, right? Your hair is here. Think of the part as going around, and then the hair kind of sprouting from that point. From that central point going out. Going out. Think of these things as you're doing the tracing. And you're just going to want to trace. See, I'm getting kind of wild with the lines because I really like the way kind of an angled line works. Great thing about character artists like TB Choi is that all of their drawings are based on a solid knowledge of anatomy, but it really teaches you how to do expressions because, as you can see, they kind of take the expressions to the nth degree, right? And you need that in order to show, you have to sort of exaggerate a little bit. This isn't a figure drawing class. Don't strive to do these static, boring figure drawings. And actually, what I would recommend is when you're doing a figure drawing class, don't do that standard, boring shape. You know, practice doing a little bit of stylization. And I need you to really need you to get over the stigma of tracing. If you're doing a job, you don't want to trace, but actually sometimes, in the world of concept art, sometimes you have to like sample. You have to like grab, maybe not art, but you have to grab photos of textures or photos of things. You drop them in quickly, you warp them in Photoshop, and then it creates this new thing for you. I'm experimenting with just changing the art a little bit because I like these like dark bits. So you can see here that hers is beautiful and mine is sloppy. It's fine, right? It's absolutely fine. My brain is getting out of this what it needs to get. This is going to be deleted, right? None of these practices should be precious to you. I'm going to do one more. I love that face right there. Ah, oh, that's so good. So for a face like this, I think I am going to show you another way you can practice when you trace. Practice seeing the skull. And it doesn't have to be perfect. But practice seeing that skull and that shape of the face. Like here would be the skull. The jawbone, the cheekbone. And the brow ridge. This area right here on the female is going to be less pronounced, less of a ridge, so be sure to never really accentuate. Don't really accentuate it here. Where on men you can. But so you can see, that would be how the skull works there. I did a little bit more rendering, but as I'm drawing, I'm keeping this in mind that, the skin is going to flow over that. Right? And on the question of muscles, most pleasing art follows what's expected. It's not expected to have a woman, like She-Hulk, all muscled out with muscles defined. men for that matter, be careful when you're accentuating muscles. Do it if it makes sense. If you've got a small, bookish sort of guy or an average female, you're not going to have the defined muscles unless these individuals work those muscles out. So don't automatically draw in all the muscles. Like right here, the shoulder is not drawn out, it's just basically drawn in. There's no striations here for the muscles, right? It's just a muscle. Now, if this character was a bodybuilder, really developed her body, yeah, you could draw that in. But default, don't do it. Always think about your character as a real thing. Now, here's something that she did. See how this muscle right here comes down? That's actually not how the muscle goes. That big muscle in your neck starts right here at the base of your ear and goes down, and then it comes from behind your ear and goes down. And then there's another muscle that comes in here, and then a big muscle that kind of comes in like this, right? But of course you don't want to draw all of that. But just bear in mind, this line is probably a little more accurate. But again, you can play around with the anatomy if you're doing a stylized sketch. As long as everything else looks pretty good, no one's going to notice that little line is off. And I'll put a link to TB Choi's art station in the description of this video. But I encourage you to find your own artist. But if you do like her and you want to do her stuff, by all means. And I'm going fast because I want to try to get her gestures down. That's all I need. But if you are doing this and you're just starting, go slow and then slowly go fast over it. Practice throwing your line like that, that, and that. If you've got a curve, break your curve up into segments. I hate the way that nose came out. That was my bad, but hey, it's just practice. Who cares, right? Just do it. That's how you practice drawing by tracing. Now, none of this is anything that I want to keep. But as you can see, just by tracing her lines, I'm getting an idea of how she draws. And that is all I needed. There we go. That's basically it. Is it exact? No. Is it close enough? Sure. If I wanted to take this to completion, I could. And I'd fix all the things. But keep in mind this was done in, 15 seconds. So it's very fast. But I got what I wanted done out of this. So this, I learned from this. Like I said, it isn't perfect. But it's not supposed to be. You're supposed to be learning. Don't worry about perfection. Right? Just like my videos, there's nothing perfect here. It's all just barfing it out and seeing what happens, right? That's all art is. You learn by doing. And this is a great way to learn by doing. So your average sketch paper should look pretty similar to this. There you go. All right, everybody, get that tracing paper done. I don't know. Maybe I got to figure out a place where I can see what y'all are doing. Leave me some comments below if you have any questions. I'll try to answer it. Maybe I can do another video on it. I'm going to try to get a good grip of videos done for this channel. Just to get out my general thoughts. I may go back and revisit them as I learn how to do this whole video thing. But for now, that's how I want you to start learning how to draw. All right, everybody, take care. God bless. Have a good drawing session.